You know that feeling when you walk into a car dealership and the salesperson asks, "What monthly payment are you comfortable with?" And you think, "Oh, that's nice of them to care about my budget." Yeah, that question right there just cost you probably $15,000 to $20,000 over the next few years, and you didn't even realize it. Look, I see this constantly. Someone making $55,000 a year driving a $45,000 truck with a $650 monthly payment, telling themselves, "I can afford it because I can make the monthly payment." Meanwhile, they're one emergency away from financial catastrophe. And here's the thing that really gets me. They actually think they made a smart decision because the dealer worked with their budget. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why everything you think you know about buying cars is wrong, and more importantly, the exact rules you need to follow to never be trapped in car debt again. My name is Rayhan, and I spend way too much time thinking about why we make terrible financial decisions when it comes to cars. If you're someone who's ever felt that pit in your stomach when you see your car payment come out of your account, or you've realized that your car is literally preventing you from building wealth, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because what we're going to talk about today isn't just about saving money on a car, it's about completely shifting how you think about transportation so that your car serves your financial goals instead of destroying them. Here's what most people don't realize. The average American is now carrying a car payment of $736 per month, according to Experian's 2024 Q4 data. That's for new cars. For used cars, it's still $542. And the average loan term? 68 months for new cars. That's nearly 6 years. Let me put that in perspective for you. If you're paying $736 a month for 68 months, you're paying $50,048 for that car. $50,000 for something that's going to be worth maybe $25,000 when you finally pay it off. You literally pay double what the car is worth by the end. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part that should honestly make you angry. The average person will have car payments for 9 out of every 10 years of their adult life. Think about that. From age 25 to 65, that's 40 years, you'll be making car payments for 36 of those years. Now, you might be thinking, "Okay, Rayhan, but I need a car. I have to get to work. What am I supposed to do?" And look, I get it. I'm not some anti-car minimalist living in a van telling you to bike everywhere. I'm talking about something completely different. Let me show you what I mean with actual numbers, because this is where most financial advice completely falls apart. Let's say you follow conventional advice. You make $65,000 a year. That's roughly $4,300 after taxes. Financial experts tell you that you can afford 10 to 15% of your gross income on transportation. So you go out and get a car with a $650 monthly payment, plus insurance, $150, plus gas, $200, plus maintenance, $100. That's $10,100 a month, or about 25% of your take-home pay. Here's the thing that nobody tells you. Over 40 years of working, if you're spending $1,100 a month on transportation, that's $528,000, $500,000 on cars. But wait, it gets worse. If instead of spending that $1,100 a month on car payments and everything else for expensive vehicles, you spent $400 a month on driving reliable used cars you own outright and invested the other $700, in 40 years at an average 8% return, you'd have $2.4 million. Read that again. The difference between driving new cars with payments versus driving reliable used cars you own outright is literally the difference between retiring with $2.4 million or retiring with nothing. Your car payment isn't just costing you $650 a month, it's costing you your retirement. So, why do we do this? Why do intelligent people make such catastrophically bad decisions about cars? Look, there's a psychological component here that the car industry understands way better than you do, and they've built their entire business model around exploiting it. First, there's what I call monthly payment thinking. When that dealer asks, "What monthly payment are you comfortable with?" they're not trying to help you, they're anchoring your brain to think in terms of monthly payments instead of total price. It's a manipulation technique, and it works brilliantly. Here's what happens in your brain. You think, well, I can afford $500 a month, so the dealer structures a deal that gets you to $500. But what you don't see is that they just extended your loan from 48 months to 72 months. You're paying interest for 2 extra years. They might have even bumped up the price of the car by $3,000, but because the monthly payment feels affordable, you don't notice. This is where it gets really interesting, though. There's a study from the University of Chicago that found that when people think in terms of monthly payments, they're willing to pay 20 to 30% more for the same item compared to when they think about the total price. 20 to 30%. The car industry knows this. This is why every advertisement, every dealer conversation, every finance discussion is centered around monthly payments. But here's the deeper psychological trap: status. We've somehow convinced ourselves that the car we drive says something fundamental about who we are as people, that driving a 2019 Honda Civic means you're less successful than someone driving a 2024 BMW. It's insane when you say it out loud, but we all feel it. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a surgeon, makes about $350,000 a year. You know what he drives? A 2014 Toyota Camry with 140,000 miles on it. Runs perfectly. It cost him $8,000 3 years ago. His colleagues think he's crazy. They're all driving $80,000 cars with payments. But here's the thing. He's maxing out his retirement accounts, has a paid-off house, and is on track to retire at 50 if he wants to. Meanwhile, his colleagues making the same salary are stressed about money, can't max out their retirement accounts, and are going to be working until they're 65 or 70. But hey, at least their cars are shiny. Now, you might be thinking, but Rayhan, I work hard. Don't I deserve to drive something nice? And look, I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying that nice and expensive aren't the same thing. A well-maintained used car that's reliable and comfortable is nice. A new car with a $700 payment that's stressing you out every month is actually not nice at all, no matter how good it looks. Here's what most people don't realize about car satisfaction. Studies show that the happiness boost you get from a new car lasts about 3 months. 3 months! After that, it's just transportation again. But that payment, that lasts for 5, 6, 7 years. So you're paying for 6 years for something that made you happy for 3 months. The math doesn't match. Okay, so let's get into the actual rules. These are non-negotiable if you want to avoid car debt and build actual wealth. I'm going to give you 5 rules, and I'm going to explain the math and psychology behind each one. Rule number 1, never buy a car that costs more than 10% of your gross annual income. If you make $60,000 a year, your car budget is $6,000, period. That means you're buying used and you're buying with cash. But Rayanon, I can't get a reliable car for $6,000. Yes, you absolutely can. A 2012 to 2014 Honda Civic with 100,000 to 120,000 miles, $6,000 to $8,000 all day long. These cars will easily run to 200,000 miles with basic maintenance. That's 80 to 100,000 miles more. At 12,000 miles per year, that's 6 to 8 more years of driving. Let me show you why this rule is crucial. If you make $60,000 and buy a $6,000 car and it lasts you 6 years, your cost per year is $1,000. Add insurance, $1,200, gas, $2,400, and maintenance, $800. That's $5,400 per year, or about $450 per month. Compare that to buying a $35,000 car with a payment of $650 a month, plus higher insurance, $150 per month, plus gas, $200 per month, plus maintenance, $100 per month. That's $1,100 per month, or $13,200 per year. The difference is $7,800 per year. Over 6 years, that's $46,800. If you invest that difference at 8% annual returns, in 30 years, you'll have $881,000. Read that again. The difference between driving new cars with payments versus driving reliable used cars you own outright is literally the difference between retiring with $2.4 million or retiring with nothing. Your car payment isn't just costing you $650 a month, it's costing you your retirement. Rule number 2. If you can't buy it with cash, you can't afford it. Look, this is the rule that makes people the most angry, but it's also the most important one. Here's the thing about financing. When you finance something, you're not just paying for the car, you're paying interest, which is literally paying extra money for the privilege of being in debt. On a $35,000 car loan at 7% interest for 72 months, you're paying $42,000 total. That's $7,000 in interest alone. You just gave the bank $7,000 for absolutely nothing. But here's the psychological piece that's even more important. When you save up cash to buy a car, something magical happens in your brain. Suddenly, that $30,000 car doesn't look so appealing anymore because you can see your bank account drop by $30,000. You become naturally frugal. You start looking at $8,000 cars and thinking, you know what? This is actually pretty nice. I call this cash spending pain. When you swipe a card or sign a loan document, your brain doesn't process it the same way as handing over cash or watching your savings account decrease. The pain is abstract and distant. But when you have to watch your savings go from $12,000 to $4,000 to buy a car, you feel it. And that feeling makes you make better decisions. Let me give you a real example. I had a viewer email me last year. He had saved up $15,000 for a car. He was initially looking at newer cars around $22,000, $25,000, planning to finance the difference. But when he actually had that $15,000 in his account ready to spend, he realized he couldn't bring himself to watch all that money disappear. So he bought a 2013 Toyota Corolla for $9,000, spent $500 on a pre-purchase inspection and minor repairs, and kept $5,500 in his savings. 2 months later, his hours got cut at work. If he'd bought that $25,000 car with payments, he would have been screwed. Instead, he had a paid-off car and savings to fall back on. The car was fine. It was reliable, comfortable, got great gas mileage, and most importantly, it didn't stress him out. Rule number 3. Total transportation costs should never exceed 10% of your gross income. This is not just the car payment. This is everything. Car payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, registration, everything. If you make $70,000 a year, your total transportation budget is $7,000 per year, or about $583 per month. Let's break down what that looks like in reality. Car payment/savings, $0, you already own your car outright. Insurance, $125 per month. Gas, $180 per month. Maintenance fund, $100 per month. Registration/fees, $50 a month. Next car fund, $128 per month. That's $583 per month. And here's the beautiful part. You're not stressed. You own your car outright. You're building up a fund for your next car, so you'll pay cash for that one too. Compare this to someone making the same $70,000, but with an $850 car payment, $175 insurance, $200 gas, and $100 maintenance. That's $1,325 per month, or 22% of gross income. They're spending more than double on transportation, and they're stressed constantly. Now, you might be thinking, but what about people who make less money? What if you make $35,000 a year? That's only $3,500 a year for transportation. Yes, exactly. That's why if you make $35,000 a year, you absolutely cannot afford a car payment. You need to buy the cheapest reliable car you can find, probably a $4,000 Honda Civic or Toyota Corolla, and drive it into the ground while you focus on increasing your income. This is the hard truth that nobody wants to hear. If you're making $35,000 a year, the solution is not to figure out how to afford a nicer car. The solution is to increase your income. The car is the symptom, not the problem. Rule number 4. Drive every car for at least 10 years or 200,000 miles. Here's what most people don't realize about cars. The most expensive years of ownership are years 1 through 4. That's when the depreciation is steepest. A new car loses about 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. By year 3, it's lost 40 to 50% of its value. But here's where it gets interesting. Years 5 through 15 are the cheapest years to own a car. The depreciation has already happened. If you maintain it properly, the maintenance costs are still relatively low. You're just driving it and changing the oil. Let me show you the math. Let's say you buy a 3-year-old Honda Accord for $18,000. You drive it for 12 years until it has 200,000 miles. At that point, it's worth maybe $2,000. So your depreciation cost was $16,000 over 12 years, or $1,333 per year. Now let's say you buy a new Honda Accord for $32,000. You drive it for 4 years and trade it in for another new one. At trade-in, it's worth $18,000. Your depreciation cost was $14,000 over 4 years, or $3,500 per year. See the difference? By buying used and driving it longer, you're saving $2,167 per year just on depreciation alone. Over a lifetime of driving, say 40 years, that's $86,680 saved just by changing this one habit. But wait, what about maintenance costs? Don't older cars cost more to maintain? Yes, an older car will have higher maintenance costs than a newer car, but it's not even close to the difference in depreciation. On a 10-year-old Honda Accord, you might spend an extra $800 to $1,000 per year in maintenance compared to a newer car, but you're saving $2,000 plus per year on depreciation and not having a car payment. The math still heavily favors keeping your car longer. Rule number 5, never buy more cars than you need for your actual life. This is the hardest rule for people to follow because of ego, but it's crucial. You don't need a truck unless you're regularly hauling stuff. You don't need an SUV unless you have more than 2 kids. You don't need all-wheel drive unless you live somewhere with serious snow. You don't need luxury features at all. They're wants, not needs. Let me break down what you actually need. Something reliable that gets you from point A to point B safely and comfortably. That's it. Everything else is a want that you're trying to justify as a need. I see this constantly. Guys who work in IT buying F-150s because, why? You're not hauling anything, you're not towing anything, you just wanted to feel tough. Meanwhile, that truck costs $60,000, gets 18 mpg, has $200 per month insurance, and requires premium gas in some models. Let me give you a specific example, over 10 years. Option A, 2015 Honda Civic purchased for $11,000. Purchase price, $11,000. Insurance, $100 per month times 120 months equals $12,000. Gas, 35 mpg, 12,000 miles per year, and $3.50 per gallon equals $1,200 per year times 10 equals $12,000. Maintenance, $800 per year times 10 years equals $8,000. Total 10-year cost is $43,000. Option B, 2020 Ford F-150 purchased for $42,000, financed. Purchase price $42,000 plus $7,500 interest equals $49,500. Insurance, $180 per month times 120 months equals $21,600. Gas, 20 mpg, 12,000 miles per year equals $2,100 per year times 10 equals $21,000. Maintenance, $1,200 per year times 10 years equals $12,000. Total 10-year cost is $104,100. The difference is $61,100 over 10 years for doing the exact same thing, commuting to work. If you invested that $61,100 at 8% annual return, in 20 years, you'd have $284,000. Your ego about what car you drive literally costs you $250,000. Okay, so you're convinced. You want to follow these rules. But maybe you're already in car debt. Maybe you've already got that $650 payment. What do you actually do? Here's your step-by-step plan. Step 1. Face the reality of your situation. Calculate your total car costs as a percentage of your gross income. Include everything: payment, insurance, gas, maintenance. If it's over 10%, you have a problem that needs to be fixed. Step 2. If you're upside down on your loan, you have 2 options. Option A. Keep the car, but go into extreme savings mode. Cut every possible expense and throw every extra dollar at that loan. Get a second job if you have to. Pay it off as fast as humanly possible. Option B. Sell the car even if you're upside down. If you owe $32,000 on a car worth $28,000, sell it, take out a small $4,000 personal loan to cover the difference, and buy a $5,000 reliable used car with savings. Your payment went from $650 to $125. That's $525 per month that you can use to pay off the personal loan in 8 months, and then you're completely debt-free. Step 3. Once you're debt-free, immediately start saving for your next car. This is crucial. Keep making that payment to yourself. If you are paying $500 a month on your car loan, keep paying $500 a month into a high-yield savings account labeled Next Car Fund. In 3 years, you'll have $18,000. In 5 years, you'll have $30,000. Now you can buy your next car in cash and never have a car payment again. Step 4. Buy smart next time. When it's time to buy, follow the rules. Buy something 3 to 5 years old with 40 to 60,000 miles. Get it inspected by an independent mechanic. Focus on reliability. Honda, Toyota, Mazda. Here's what this looks like in practice. You're making $55,000 per year. Following these rules, your transportation budget is $458 per month. You buy a 2016 Honda Civic with 70,000 miles for $13,000 in cash. Your monthly costs are car payment, $0, insurance, $110, gas, $150, maintenance fund, $100, next car fund, $98. That's $458 per month. You're staying at 10% of gross income, you're stress-free, and in 8 years, when this Civic has 170,000 miles, you'll have $9,408 saved. Combined with selling the Civic for $3,000, you'll have $12,408 to buy your next car in cash, and you'll never have a car payment again for the rest of your life. This isn't really about cars. Cars are just the most visible symptom of a much bigger problem, which is that we've been trained to think that wealth means looking wealthy. We see someone driving a Mercedes and we assume they're successful. Meanwhile, they might be drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, one emergency away from ruin. We see someone driving a 10-year-old Camry and assume they're struggling. Meanwhile, they might have $800,000 in investment accounts. The paradox of wealth is that people who actually build wealth usually don't look wealthy because they understand that every dollar spent on looking wealthy is a dollar that can't be working for them. There's a study from the National Bureau of Economic Research that found approximately 30% of people driving luxury cars actually can't afford them by any reasonable financial standard. They're house poor, retirement poor, and car rich. And here's what's really frustrating. Because of social media, because of keeping up with the Joneses, this problem is getting worse, not better. The average car loan is now at an all-time high. People are financing cars for 84 months, 7 years. They're trading in cars they're still upside down on, rolling negative equity into new loans, and just compounding their debt forever. It's a trap, and the only way out is to completely reject the premise. You have to decide, do you want to look successful or do you want to actually be successful? Because for most people, you can't have both, at least in the early stages of building wealth. There's a reason Warren Buffett drives a modest car. There's a reason most actual millionaires drive regular cars. They understand what actually matters. Here's what I want you to do after watching this video. Calculate your total transportation costs as a percentage of your gross income right now. Not what you think it is, actually calculate it. Add up every single expense related to your car for a year, divide it by your gross income, multiply by 100, that's your percentage. If it's over 10%, you have a problem that needs to be fixed. Look, I know this is hard. I know it feels like I'm telling you to give up something that matters to you. But what I'm actually telling you is that you can have something that matters way more: financial peace, the absence of that knot in your stomach every time a bill comes in, the freedom to make choices based on what you want to do, not what you can afford. That's what these rules give you, not deprivation, freedom. The car companies, the dealers, the banks, they want you to think in terms of monthly payments. They want you to believe that you deserve a nice car because you work hard. They profit when you're in debt to them. I want you to be free, and freedom starts with rejecting their game entirely. If this video helped you, please hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below and tell me what your current transportation costs are as a percentage of your income. Let's hold each other accountable. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's trapped in car debt, share this video with them. Your financial future is too important to leave in the hands of a car salesman asking, "What monthly payment are you comfortable with?" Take control. Follow these rules, build wealth. I'll see you in the next one.